Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am so excited because I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite romance books of 2019. About halfway through the year, I did a video of my favorite romances of 2019 so far, and I think there was 4 books on that list, and I now have a full 10 favorite romances of the year. I am so excited to share them with you guys. These are all ones that I loved so much. I decided this year to split my favorite romances into a separate video from my favorite overall books of the year, just because I was trying to narrow down like my favorites list, and it was really hard, and I felt like I was bumping all the romance off the list for some of my non-romance reads. So I just wanted to do its own separate video. These books are in no particular order. I had a hard time deciding what was my top favorite because I just love all these so much, and there's a couple that I really can't choose between, so there's no order. I love all of them. The first one is The Bride Test by Helen Huang. This is the companion to The Kiss Quotient, and this follows Esme and Kai. Kai is the cousin of Michael, who was the love interest in The Kiss Quotient, and Kai is autistic, and his mother decides to bring a woman named Esme from Vietnam to be like his mail order bride. And Esme is really excited by the opportunity to leave Vietnam and start a new life in America. It's something she's always wanted to do, and so when she's presented with this opportunity, she takes it, even though it comes with the catch of potentially having to marry this guy. And Kai is really not excited about this prospect. He doesn't want to get married. He's happy and content with his life, but he decides to give Esme a chance and kind of pretend like he's going along with it so that his mother gets off his back. And I loved this romance so much. I cried a lot. It was very emotional. I think I liked this more than The Kiss Quotient. I connected more with Esme as a main character, and I felt more for this couple. It was just really funny to see the ways that Esme tried to seduce Kai, because she was really trying to force the relationship so that she could stay in America. So she was like doing everything she could to seduce him, and he was just like not having it. And I cannot wait for the third book. That one is going to be Kwan's book, who is Kai's brother, and I loved him in this book, so I'm so excited that he's getting his own romance. The next book on my list is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is a forbidden romance about a girl who has a boyfriend who is really a loser, and he sucks. The book actually starts out on her birthday, and her boyfriend is like nowhere to be found, so she goes to the movies by herself, and while she's in the theater, she sits near another man who is at the movie by himself, and he's an older guy, and they start talking, and they decide to sit together and watch the movie together since they're both alone, and they really hit it off. They have a great conversation, and then afterwards, when they're leaving the movie theater, she finds out that that guy who she was in the movie with is her boyfriend's dad. And so her and her boyfriend, I forget what happens, but they lose their apartment somehow, or their living situation, so they end up having to move in with her boyfriend's dad, which is really uncomfortable because they had kind of like a nice night together. I loved this so much. The love interest Pike is like top tier. I really liked him, and I really liked the way that their relationship developed. And at first when I went into this, I was a little bit nervous because I don't love cheating in books. It's a hard thing for me to root for characters who are cheating with each other, but since the boyfriend was literally garbage, I didn't care at all, and I just thought it was a really good age gap romance. So these next 4 are all the ones that I talked about in my other favorite romances video that I did halfway through the year. So if you want to know like my full thoughts on all of these, definitely go watch that video, but I will just kind of like quickly tell you guys about them. The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I feel like I've talked about this so many times recently, so you guys are probably sick of me talking about it, but this is about a girl who has been estranged from her father pretty much her whole life, and he comes back into contact with her because he's really sick and he's dying, and this is going to be her last opportunity to get to know him. So she travels to Alaska, where he lives, to spend some time with him, and she ends up meeting Jonah, who is her father's neighbor, and he's a pilot for her father, and they have a very adversarial relationship. They're really opposites and they don't get along. I really loved this book, like I've mentioned a million times. The next one is A Lesson in Thorns by Sierra Simone. This is I still have a hard time explaining what this book is about. This is like a gothic mystery-ish erotica romance. It's about 6 friends who, when they were kids, they spent the summer together because their parents were all really close. They all split apart and went their separate ways, and now they're all adults and they get drawn back together and they're trying to figure out this mystery of something that happened to their parents when they were younger that involves like secret societies and rituals, and it's polyamorous. They all have kind of relationships with each other. This book gets the award for best sex scenes. The next one is Vicious by LJ Shen. This is about 2 people who, when they were in high school, they were like total enemies. The guy really made the girl's life hell and he ended up driving her out of town. Now it's like 10 years later and he's back in her life, giving her an offer that she can't refuse, and the book flips back and forth between the past when they were in high school to figure out what happened, why they don't like each other, why did he make her leave town, and then present day. And this book really gives a new meaning to hate sex. And then the last one that I talked about in that video is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is a very cute summer rom-com romance that is about a woman who signs up for a Ren fair, and she gets off to a bad start with the guy who runs the Ren fair, and they end up not liking each other. But during the Ren fair, the characters that they're playing have a flirtation, so when they're in character they flirt with each other, and then as soon as the Ren fair is over, they go back to not liking each other. And this was just so cute, so much fun. I loved the setting and the whole Ren fair vibe. So the next book is The Wallflower Wager by Tessa Dare. This is probably my favorite Tessa Dare book. I've read all of her books, I think, and this one was just so good. It is the 3rd book in the Girl Meets Duke series, but you can read them in any order. And this one follows Penny, who is a very eccentric person, and she has a very strong love of animals, and she has a lot of wild pets, just a lot of crazy pets running around her house. And her neighbor is this really grumpy duke, and he's trying to sell his house, but nobody wants to buy it because of all the animals that live next door. So he comes up with a wager for Penny to help her find good homes for her pets. And I've said that this book is like the best Hufflepuff Slytherin romance ever, because Penny is a total Hufflepuff and the Duke, what's his name? Gabriel, is definitely a Slytherin, and that's like one of my favorite romantic house pairings. The next book is Praying for Rain by B.B. Easton. This is a pre-apocalypse romance. The apocalypse is happening in 4 days, and it is about the 2 main characters who need each other for survival. They both have very tragic pasts and things that they're trying to run away from, and they come together to try to find this underground bunker because the apocalypse is coming and they want a place to try to survive it. I really loved this. I love any type of apocalypse story, and this was just a lot of fun because like the whole world has gone to shit because the apocalypse is in 4 days and everyone freaked out. I love romances where the stakes are really high, where it's like life or death and the characters have a bond because they're like fighting for survival. And I cannot wait for the next 2 books to come out. They're both coming out in January, and I'm just so excited because it ended on a cliffhanger. It's driving me crazy not knowing what's gonna happen. So the next book is Irresistible by Melanie Harlow. This is about a woman who has been helping the CFO or the CEO of her father's company. His wife recently left him and he has 3 daughters, so she's been helping him and babysitting for him, and they have a very strong attraction to each other, but they're trying not to act on it because of many factors, like there's an age difference, he works for her father, she is his babysitter. Like there's a lot of reasons why they shouldn't be together, but despite that, they're really falling for each other. I loved this, and I was really annoyed because it like brought the domestic out in me. I was like, oh, they're like cooking together and she's taking care of the kids. And I really liked the main character. She was born with a heart defect, and because of that, her parents really sheltered her, and she wasn't allowed to do a lot of the things that she wanted to do. So throughout the book, she's really trying to set out on her own for the first time and take risks. And yeah, I just thought this one was so cute. And then the last book on my list of favorite romances is A Girl Like Her by Talia Hibbert. This is about a woman who is autistic, and because of something that happened with an ex-boyfriend, she's pretty much being ostracized from everyone in her town. No one really wants to be seen with her until she gets a new neighbor, and he is like described as Chris Evans, Captain America. He's very good looking and very kind, and he notices that Ruth is hardly leaving her apartment, so he decides to start cooking dinners for her. He's already cooking for his friend's sick mom, so he decides to just like make a little extra to give to Ruth, and in exchange for cooking her dinners, she lends him comic books because she is a really big comic book fan. They have like a little book club while they eat dinner and they discuss the comics, and I just really loved this. 2019 was the year that I fell in love with Talia Hibbert, and I definitely think this is, of all her books that I've read this year, this was my favorite. I really loved the couple, especially the guy. I loved him so much because he was just like really a good guy, really respectful. And I read a lot of romances with like a bad guy, and don't get me wrong, I love a bad guy, but I also love a good guy sometimes, you know? So those were my favorite romances that I read this year. I read so many amazing romances. It was really hard to come up with this list, but I really cannot wait to see which ones I read next year, especially since there's so many 2020 romances coming out that I am so excited for. So definitely let me know in the comments what some of your favorite romances were this year. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!